Oh. Output settings. Oh boy. I hope that's not going to interfere. All right. So, greetings and salutations. All right, so tonight I'm gonna leave it open. It's your call. Just the title of the broadcast. It's your call. So I'm gonna leave it for an open topic. Whoever wants to talk about whatever. Um, so yeah. So you pick your topics. I had a few in mind that I would have wanted to do. So if nobody has an idea, I'll just start talking about what's on my mind and we'll go from there. Tell you, I hate to change the seasons though, because that makes my joints, my low back hurt badly. So I got constant pain from there, but I'm doing all right. I survive, and my desk is a wreck as usual. Jaded Sapphire pants and collapses. Why? What's the matter, Jaded? How's everything down there in Texas? Are you guys okay down there? You're starting to recover a little bit from Harvey? Marcus Agrippa says he got video and audio. So how is the video and audio? Is it good? Is it 5x5? One thing that always bugs me about the streaming is that there's about a 30 to 45 second time gap between me saying something and you guys hearing it. So it's like I gotta say something, or if I ask a question, I gotta wait like 30 to 45 seconds before you actually hear it. That's the only exasperating thing. Nice. Thank you, Marcus, for confirming that. Yes, Mother is a handful at times. But you know what? She fights back. Look at what we've done to her. So occasionally, I think she's entitled to a temper tantrum. Yeah, Florida, yeah, they're getting hit hard with Irma. And what happened to Jose? Did Jose ever make landfall in the U.S., or did it stay out in Puerto Rico? What kind of a username is that? I can't even pronounce that. Asrager, Asragertharex. I can't pronounce that. What kind of a username is that? Damn. Yeah, that's certainly true, Marcus. Jose is circling in the Atlantic. Aha. Jose is, okay, and I won't repeat that word. Jose is blank in the Atlantic. Ah, like an itchy nose. Ah. Well, it could stay out in the Atlantic, right? Let it just stay out there. I hope so, because, you know, you guys down there in the South and anybody, really, do we really need any more? Man. I think I read someplace that, I think it was Harvey, maybe, that I was reading, it left 15 inches of rain. I mean, that's an incredible amount. I mean, in snow terminology, 15 inches of rain might convert to about 4 feet of snow. Maybe more. So, what's on everybody's mind tonight? What would they like to talk about? Hurricane season is active until November 1st. Oh, so you got time for another one. Oh, like you want another one. 53 inches of rain in Houston. Oh my God. That is insane. "53 inches." Well, I don't know where I read the 15-inch total, but maybe that was something else. I hope the South doesn't get any more. Damn. Yeah, the season's got to be really bad. So, Jaded, where you live, did you get hit with a? Did you get a lot of water where you live? Where you live, a lot of flooding down there where you are, or did you get spared? Oh, Mabon, yeah, autumnal equinox. I was wondering the other day, what is the etymology of Mabon? Where did that come from? I've heard a lot of people refer to the autumnal equinox as Mabon, but you know what? Before I started doing my broadcast, before I started conversing with a lot of people on the internet, I never heard of that word. Never even heard of it. You know, I always called the autumnal equinox just that, autumnal equinox. I didn't call it by any name in particular. So then when people started talking about it and calling it Mabon, I always wondered where in the heck that came from. And I still don't know. So, let me get my Bible and I'll be right back. Alright. So I got my Bible. Here we go. Autumn equinox, 21st September. Excuse me. So 21st September, right? Now, of course, there's a lot of agricultural significance with many of the equinoxes, and this is no different. So the Ferrars, now they don't use that name, I don't think. Your gas has gone up to $2.39 a gallon? Well, has gone up? Ours is about that all the time. I bet. That's terrible. So the autumn equinox's theme is that of rest after labor. So we have gone through the spring equinox and then midsummer, and then yeah, Lughnasadh, which was the first harvest. So now we look forward to the rest after the labor. So now we're in between the harvests. We did the first one back around Lughnasadh, and now the second one will be in October, and which will be the last one before right about the time that the killing frost strikes. Wow, $1.95 a gallon. We haven't had that price up here in the north since I was like in my teens, I think, or my 20s. The sun is about to enter the sign of Libra, the balance. In the stations of the goddess, the spring equinox represents initiation, the autumn equinox, repose. The harvest has been gathered in, both grain and fruit, yet the sun, though mellower and less fierce than he was, is still with us. With symbolic aptness, there is still a week to go before Michaelmas, the festival of Michael Lucifer, archangel of fire and light, at which we must begin to say au revoir to his splendor. Doreen Valiente's in ABC, let me start that sentence again. Doreen Valiente, in ABC of Witchcraft, page 166, remarks at the most frequent spectral appearances of certain recurrent hauntings are March and September. Quote, the months of the equinoxes, periods well known to occultists, are as being times of psychic stress, end quote. That would seem to contradict the idea of the equinoxes being times of balance, yet the paradox is only an apparent one. Times of balance, of suspended activity, are by their nature the times when the veil between the seen and the unseen is thin. They are also the seasons when human beings change gear to a different phase, and therefore times of psychological as well as psychic turbulence. That is all the more reason for us to recognize and understand the significance of those natural phases, so that their turbulence exhilarates instead of distressing us. If we look at the tree calendar, which Robert Graves has shown to underlie so much of our Western magical and poetic symbolism, we find that the autumn equinox comes just before the end of the vine month and the beginning of the ivy month. Vine and ivy are the only two of the month trees which grow spirally, and the spiral, particularly the double spiral, winding and returning, is a universal symbol of reincarnation. And the bird of the autumn equinox is the swan, another symbol of the immortality of the soul, as is the wild goose, whose domestic variety is the traditional Michaelmas dish. Incidentally, blackberry is a frequent substitute for the vine in the symbolism of northern countries. Folk tradition in many places, particularly in the west of England, insists that blackberries should not be eaten after the end of September, which is also the end of the vine month because they then become the property of the devil. Might we guess that this means don't try to cling to the incoming spiral once it is over, look onward to the outgoing? Lughnasadh marked the actual gathering of the grain harvest, but in its sacrificial aspect. The autumn equinox marks the completion of the harvest and thanksgiving for abundance, with the emphasis on the future return of that abundance. This equinox was the time of the Eleusinian mysteries, the greatest mysteries of ancient Greece. And although the details are not known, initiates kept the secrets well, the rituals of Eleusis certainly base themselves on corn harvest symbolism. The climax is said to have been the showing to the initiate of a single ear of grain, with the admonition, "In silence is the seed of wisdom gained." For our own autumn equinox, autumn Sabbath, then we take the following interrelated themes: the completion of the harvest, a salute to the waning power of the sun, and an acknowledgement that sun and harvest, and men and women also, share in the universal rhythm of rebirth and reincarnation. As the Book of Shadows declamation says, "Therefore the wise ones weep not, but rejoice." In the Book of Shadows ritual for this festival, the only substantial items are the High Priestess's declamation, "Farewell, O Sun," and the candle game, both of which we have retained. And of course, that is again from Janet Stewart's book, the A Witch's Bible, the Complete Witch's Handbook. And that is their take on it, from what they, I guess, in their Celtic lands have come to know. Mabon is Michaelmas. It comes, I think they said a week before, right? Now I can't find that passage. Yeah, it says there's still a week to go before Michaelmas, the festival of Michael Lucifer. So yeah, so that would be like the 19th, right? Oh no, 21st, the 28th, which would be around the 28th. So it's I don't know if it's similar to. I mean, Michaelmas appears to be it's a festival in and of itself, I guess. Right? That would seem to be. Blessings, my lady Ordora. So what do we do at this time of year? I mean, how do we, what is there to be said about the autumn equinox? So I need a little help there, Marcus. So this is an agricultural Sabbath, right? No, this is a solar-centered Sabbath. Yes, okay. This is solar-centered, and Samhain, that would be an agricultural one, right? Alicia, what's up? Oh yeah, ethics. You can't hear? Why? so Samhain is agri-hunting, but so the autumn equinox is a solar Sabbath, right? So that's something that I still need to try and get right in my own head. Oh, so now you do have the link. Yeah, I had last night I'd had a meeting, and in that meeting I was discussing the ethics of witchcraft, which is another section in the Bible here, and I had it saved, and I was just looking at the bookmarker I had. So that's where it was. It was in the ethics portion. So, I mean, ethics, the beginning of this section starts out with the words, 8 words the wicked read fulfill, and in harm none, do as you will. And I think that says a lot right there. I mean, like I was saying last night, in fact, basically, you can do when it comes to witchcraft and magic, you can do literally what you will with it, with the one exception of that whatever you do does not cause intentional harm to anyone, and that is an ethical code that is just like the bottom dollar. Like, yeah, within Wicca and witchcraft, we hold that 100% to that. But also, one should not simply rush off and work magic and witchcraft just because it's there, just because they can. There's that, because therein lies a trap, okay? If you're always doing that, and if you're good, I mean, if you're good and you're good at it and you can weave your energy, and you're good with weaving your energy, then yes, you will have successful results. But the problem is that the more that you use it, you could become drunk on it. You know, it's like a drug, you know, and you could become too addicted to using it, and that could cause some very bad things to happen, particularly in your own psyche. So the ethical standard is to not use that magic and witchcraft in your life until you've exhausted all physical means to acquire that which you need. And then you would use the magic and the witchcraft as the last resort. So I think that that is a good ethic to hold to. And I always try to teach my students that. Because many people, you know, they hear that word magic or witchcraft, and they all, unfortunately, they are automatically thinking of what the many wonderful things that they can do with witchcraft and the many wonderful things they can acquire using witchcraft. And, you know, it's not really what the gods intended, I don't think. You know, it's too easy. You know, it would be too easy to run one's life strictly using witchcraft. Better it be that you use it in conjunction with whatever you're doing in the physical world. Because you always have to remember that we are rooted here in this reality. So we have to always do things with regard to this reality. We can't always be living in some altered state, like the kind that you could create using witchcraft. You can't do that. You shouldn't anyway. You have to remember, you know, that this is where you live. You know, so your psyche has to understand, you have to control your psyche so that you're not trying to live in a, how do I want to word that? It's in a made-up world. You know, you can make up literally anything with your own mind, but that's not this reality. So use the magic and the witchcraft in conjunction with what you are doing physically. Don't just rely on the magic and the witchcraft. It's just generally not a good idea. So let me so this is what the Ferrars have to say about ethics. Wicca is a joyous creed. It is also a socially and ecologically responsible one, which is delight in the world and their involvement in it on all the levels. They enjoy their own minds, their own psyches, their own bodies, their senses, and their sensitivities. And they delight in relating on all these planes with their fellow creatures, human, animal, and vegetable, and with the earth itself. Wiccan ethics are positive rather than prohibitive. The morality of witchcraft is far more concerned with blessed is he who than with thou shalt not. The extremes of masochistic asceticism on the one hand or of gross materialism on the other seem to the witch to be two sides of the same coin, because both distort human wholeness by rejecting one or more of its levels, which is believe in a joyful balance of all human functions. The outlook is perfectly expressed in the charge. Let my worship be within a heart that rejoiceth. For behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals. And therefore let there be beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence within you. It is worth setting these qualities out in their polarized pairs. His beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence, and meditating on them as a model for a balanced ethic, while remembering that each of the 8 qualities is positive, not restrictive. Compassion means empathy, not condescension. Humility means a realistic appraisal of your own stage of development, not self-abasement. Reverence means a sense of wonder, that essentially Wiccan attribute, not just remembering to take your hat off in a church or put it on in a synagogue. And the witch is always conscious that compassion must be partnered by power, humility by honor, and reverence by mirth. The charge continues, and thou who thinkest to seek for me, the goddess, know thy seeking and yearning shall avail thee not, unless thou knowest the mystery, that if that which thou seekest thou findest not within thee, then thou wilt never find it without thee. For behold, I have been with thee from the beginning, and I am that which is attained at the end of desire. This too is an ethical statement. To the witch, self-development and the full realization of one's unique yet many-aspected potential are a moral duty. That which helps evolution forward is good. That which thwarts it is evil. And each of us is a factor in the cosmic evolutionary process. So one owes it not merely to oneself, but to the rest of mankind and the world to look inside oneself and to discover and release that potential. Evolution, in this sense, does not merely mean Darwinism, though Darwin certainly defined one of the ways, on one of the levels, in which cosmic evolution expresses itself. It is the continuing process by which the ultimate creative force of the universe manifests itself downwards through the levels, with increasing complexity, and is itself enriched by the experience of that complexity. In Kabbalistic terms, the Kether to Malkut to Kether cycle. This is a very deep subject, deserving of a lifetime or several lifetimes of study. For a first approach to it, we recommend Dion Fortune's book, The Cosmic Doctrine, and The Mystical Kabbalah. But while many witches do study this deeper philosophy, most of them, and all of them most of the time, are more concerned with a literally down-to-earth guide to their daily activity. For this living relationship to the cosmic process, on a scale at which it can readily seem to affect us, witches are dedicated to the concept of the earth as a living organism. And this attitude, physical, mental, psychic, and spiritual, is the heart and soul of the old religion. Mother Earth is thought of as precisely that. She produces us, nourishes us, makes it possible for us to live at all levels, from the simply biological to the breathtakingly creative, rewards us when we understandingly love her, takes revenge when we abuse her, and reabsorbs our material component when we die. She reminds us that all living creatures are our siblings, different but related offspring of the same womb. The Mother Earth concept can be envisaged in many ways, from the scientifically sophisticated theory of the Gaia hypothesis to the worship of her as goddess. And indeed, many witches see the Gaia hypothesis as a further validation of their own immemorial goddess approach. As we pointed out in section 11, the intelligent advanced guard of modern science is coming closer and closer to many of the concepts which witches and occultists have always held, and witches watch this process with satisfaction and sympathy, if with an occasional ironic smile. That God and Goddess concepts are emotionally and psychically necessary to mankind and a justifiable approach to reality will be argued in section 14, Myth, Ritual, and Symbolism. But accepting them for the moment, and few readers would have got this far if they did not, no one can deny that the Earth Mother is the goddess concept which is most immediately vital to us, most easily understood, and most determinative of the rhythm of our lives. She is the background and foreground to our very existence. Even that other great goddess aspect which is symbolized by the moon would be difficult to conceive of separately from the Earth Mother whom she orbits, whose tide she controls, and whose creatures she affects in everything from menstruation of women to the growth of plants. The moon goddess is the Earth Mother's mysterious other self. Any goddess concept which lies outside the domain of that powerful sisterhood is far more subtle and abstract, and less immediate concern to ordinary mortals. How then do witches express their devotion to the Earth Mother in ethical terms? The implications are obvious. The moral duty to the evolutionary process, which we mentioned earlier, is seen by the witch as a personal responsibility towards the natural rhythms and needs of the earth as a living organism, and towards the needs, rhythms, and evolutionary development of her constituent creatures. And I just want to break in here for a second and about the responsibility to the Earth Mother part. That makes me think. Lately, I have been trying real hard. You know, I smoke cigarettes again. I'm sorry for that, but I have to work in my own time. Maybe quit that again. But anyway, I try to be conscious when I'm out and about somewhere and I'm smoking a cigarette. I try to be conscious of when I'm done that cigarette, not just simply flick it onto the ground. I've become very conscious of that lately. Again, it's not the first time. But what I've been doing is I will, dip the cigarette out somewhere on the ground, and I'll put the cigarette butt in my pocket and make sure that at some point I throw it in the garbage. I've been trying to become very mindful of that, because those cigarette filters, they take years to decompose, and they're very bad for the earth. Now, I realize that me as an individual, on a grand scale, somebody could argue and say, well, you're just one person. That's not going to help the earth at all. Well, you know what? Me by myself, I may not, but I'm certainly not going to I'm going to do my best not to contribute to the problem, And I definitely am aware when I'm out and about somewhere, if I happen to take like a bottle of water or something like that. But I don't throw trash on the ground either. If I'm out about somewhere and I have trash and I don't have a trash can, it might be a wrapper or something I'll stick in my pocket until I get to a garbage can where I can throw it in the garbage. I try my best not to throw things on the ground. That's an ethical standard that I think if a lot more humans adopted that, we could see a lot less litter going on, because I see it everywhere I go. It's sad, but I do. I see litter everywhere I go. And We're a very destructive species, unfortunately. And I'm hoping that as time goes on, as the evolutionary process continues, that we can learn. Maybe we can learn from our mistakes. And then, of course, we've got a country like North Korea doing these underground missile tests. I was reading today, their last test that they did, it caused a magnitude 6.3 earthquake. And just, it's crazy. It's really saddening. .3, that's pretty strong. What are we doing to ourselves? And look what these people are doing. Underground missile tests, nuclear. And now they say it's being said that they have been able to miniaturize the nuclear warhead to put it on a missile. That whole situation really has me very concerned. But that's just one of the examples of us not acting ethically. It seems to be that people have forgotten that. How about Heathen? Good to see you tonight. I see you're asking. I don't know if you had known we already. I had already wanted to examine that, the history of the name of the autumn equinox, Mabon, because as I had said earlier, I don't even know where that came from. I never heard of it until I started doing my broadcasting online. I never heard of it. It appears to be a newer thing, adopted into Celtic traditions, I guess. Yeah, this ethics session goes on quite a ways. Came from Aidan Kelly? Who's Aidan Kelly? So yeah, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here between that and the ethics here. So yeah, we're reading about the responsibility to Mother Earth. Those creatures, her constituent creatures, human, animal, and vegetable, all the individual cells, the nervous systems, the lungs, the sense organs of Mother Earth, just as the mineral kingdom is her living body, tissue, and skeleton, the seas and rivers are her bloodstream, and her envelope of atmosphere is the air which she breathes as we do ourselves. That is why environmental care and action play such an important part in the Wiccan ethic. That is why witches get angry and active when oxygen-creating trees are cut down faster than they are planted, when whales and seals are massacred for commercial profit, when chemical fertilizers and pesticides are used regardless of their ecological impact, when indifferent industries pollute the atmosphere and the rivers and seas with their waste products, and when the concrete jungle, often with more concern for commerce than for housing, spreads like a rash over the Earth's complexion. Fortunately, it is not only witches who have begun to realize that the rape of the planet is reaching a critical stage. A symptom of this public concern is that many countries now have a Ministry of the Environment. Their effectiveness may be inadequate to the problem, but the term itself would have been meaningless a generation ago. And remember, this book was published, back in the 80s. So the rape of the planet was at a critical stage back then. I don't know what to call it now. I don't know what to call it. Thank you, Hellbound. Aidan Kelly is an author that came up with the Maybone name, I guess. But I wonder how he arrived at, I wonder why he coined it such. My back is hurting. Just how the witch's environmental ethic is translated into action is sometimes a complex matter. There are a few easy answers, and witches, like everyone else who takes the problem seriously, may come up with different ones. For example, some witches are vegetarians, while others feel that man as an omnivore is part of the balance of nature, and concentrate on humane methods of meat production. Some witches regard the microchip revolution with horror, while others believe that properly handled it can mean de-urbanization, cheap and simple human communication, increased leisure, the elimination of meaningless jobs, and the shifting of man's effort to essentially human creativity. Some withdraw into self-sufficient communes, while others involve themselves deeply in the existing structure in the hope of transforming it. Some delve into the past for inspiration, while others fix their eyes determinedly on the future. And I myself, I like the microchip revolution. I was talking to somebody today. This person I was talking to today is of that body of thought that believes that when you build a machine to do the work of a man, you take away from a man. Has our next generation, not necessarily us older people, but the next generation, the younger generation to us, have they become lazy? I mean, with all the leaps in technology, and I don't know. I don't see any problem with using technology to make our lives easier. That's a good point, Marcus. I'm going to read your comment out loud, okay? One item which may fall under ethics is that the use of magic creates a situation in which the people who does the magic need to remember that nothing is free when you work with spirits and gods and goddesses and ask for their aid and support. You need to expect there will be something required of you in return, and you must be willing to pay that price. That's a very good point. There's always a price. Now, who's to say? Now, we can't say that. You must be willing to pay whatever it would be. You won't know. You can't know what they're going to require. But you must be willing to accept the fact that you're going to ask for their aid and support, so they are going to ask for something in return. Now, this does not mean, and I want to try and clarify this so it doesn't mislead people. This does not mean that you're going to get psychically blasted, or you're going to it's not like a sin concept where you're going to burn in a lake of fire. No, it's not like a concept to say you shouldn't use it because. No. I wish I could think of a good example of the kind of price you might pay. I'm drawing a blank. But yes, if we're working in these ways and on this path, I believe that we've taken an oath to act accordingly. We've also accepted certain parts of the path, all parts of it. I mean, we've accepted it as a whole. It's a way of life for us. So even when we're working at magic, we've accepted, in the asking of aid and support, we've accepted the fact that they will want something in return. We're not going to sit there and muddle over it and say, oh no, what are they going to want? No, they'll let us know. It will be very subtle, and it's not going to be a horrible thing. It's not like when you're working with a demon, and say you make a pact with a demon that's going to make you really wealthy and famous or something like that, where at the end of it all, the demon is going to require your soul as payment. No, that's not what we do here. That's not what service to the Lord and Lady is about. They're not going to require your soul. So don't even worry about that. That's not the way it works. Whatever it is, it will be acceptable. It is. They're not going to place anything on you that is unbearable. It's not going to be any kind of a burden that's going to be unbearable. The goddess doesn't work that way. The Lord and Lady, they don't work like that. The Lord and Lady love their children. So they will always, when they do expect something in return for their aid and support, it will be something that's completely acceptable and bearable. So you don't have to worry about that. You know, okay, here's an example. Maybe that you were asked to study more or put in more effort. Like I was saying earlier, when you do an act of magic, you shouldn't just rely on the magic itself. You should be doing something physically too. So that's really maybe what the price of it all is that you do something physically in the real world to aid in the outcome of that, of whatever it was that you needed. If it's a ritual or a spell to acquire something, you do something in the physical that will help it. And it has to, when you do something like that, it has to be something that is practically and realistically obtainable. Always keep that in mind. And yes, that's help others out and teach. I was talking to my high priestess about that earlier. And she was kind of complimenting me on what I do here with this and the offline stuff I've started to do recently. She was complimenting me about it. And I told her that at some point during my studies and during my being a priest, at some point it had occurred to me that we as occultists, not just Wiccans, but we as occultists, we have a obligation to ensure that the ancient knowledges, the magic, the witchcraft, call it what you will, but the ancient knowledges that we've been given, we have a responsibility to ensure that it is passed on and that it is handled properly. You know, so, you know, for me to do this, it's a natural thing that has come to me to want to do it. You know, I'm not doing it because I have to, but I do. But I realize, you know, that this is something I have to be doing, you know, and I need to do this, you know, because people need to know. You know, there are those out there, there are people out there that will hear this. They'll hear my voice. They'll hear others' voices. They'll realize too, in their own time, that they also have this obligation. They have this responsibility to ensure the continuity of the ancient knowledges that they're handed down, you know, to the next generation, and that they're handled properly and responsibly. We have to make sure that that next generation will handle that knowledge in a responsible fashion. And I'm not sure when I came to that realization, but it was very subtle. You know, I realized after I got my second degree, I think that's about when when that full realization sunk in was after my second degree, and I started like getting this real, true desire, you know. And at that time, I was involved with another coven, and um, there was a student that came along. We really thought the student was going to work out, and he didn't. But it was during that time that I was writing up different things concerning the structure of a coven and how it should operate, you know. And it was during a time that I realized that, yeah, I need to be doing this. I'm supposed to be teaching people. I'm supposed to be making sure that whoever learns this material is responsible with it, which means that I have to be able to know the person that I'm assessing. You know, I need to know before they get a whole lot of knowledge, will they be able to handle it responsibly? I need to be able to judge their character, you know. Oh, hi, Sanguine. You sure you want to look at my face? You might get scared. Hellbound Heathen, I'm sorry, what? I just looked back at the chat here. What rule are you talking about? You said that sounds really arbitrary. Where is that quote rule from? What rule are you talking about? Well, when I said we have an obligation to... When I said that we as occultists have an obligation, that's what if that's what you were referring to, then that is just my assessment, you know. That's my assessment of the situation. The obligation. Well, we do, don't we? We do have an obligation. As initiated priests and priestesses to the Wicca, we do have an obligation to the gods, God and Goddess. And those who follow the Wicca traditions, but they are not, say, in a coven, they're not initiated priests and priestesses, they don't have any such obligation, unless they want to make it theirs. But we've taken an oath, we've taken certain oaths, and we are obligated. We are their servants. Now, solitary outside of a coven, if they want to make it that in their life and accept that into their life, that's all well and good. I hope I'm not confusing you. I hope I'm not confusing myself. No, I think I know what I said. Oh, well, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for that wonderful comment. Oh, Sanguine, I still have the drape. It's just put off to the side because I have an air conditioner in the window. But the drape is still there. It's hanging right next to it. And I spread out a little bit. I had this, I used to be able to just be living in this one room, but recently I was able to get a second room. There was a small room next door to mine that became empty, and it's really a small room, so I asked the landlady if I could add that second room to my rent. There was a door that separated the two rooms. Now the door has been sealed for a long time. So I just asked her recently if we can remove the door and let me have that second room. So all that stuff that I used to have around me has all been moved over in there. I needed more room in this room. I needed to spread out. Oh, I'm glad I was able to help you out, Sanguine. And Hellbound, that obligation to the gods, I don't think it's a written rule as such. It's not really a written rule as such, but it's a realization. It's a realization. Nobody writes that stuff down. That's a realization that comes upon the initiate. And it's not just mine either. I mean, I'm not the only one who feels that way. Yeah, I've been living here in this building. I've been living here for 11 years. And I spent, I've been here in this for 5 years, I think. 5 years, yeah. So pretty much all that time was spent in this single room. So having a second room added was wonderful. It helped me to spread out and have more room to work in here. And I've got a fold up bed over here in the corner here, so I can just fold that out when I need to go to bed, and I can fold it back up during the day and keep that out of the way. You know, I had to make things practical and more comfortable. Oh, my back is like hurting super bad. So uncomfortable. Well, here's something as far as ethics go. This is something that they talk about. As for psychedelic, hallucinogenic, and similar drugs, we do not take them ourselves, and we ban them absolutely from our covenstead. This ban includes cannabis, though we realize that differing views are sincerely held on the question of whether or not it should be legalized. And of course, it has been legalized in many areas now across the U.S. Drugs do, in a sense, expand consciousness, but in the same way as a non-swimmer jumping into the deep end gets wet and is also liable to drown. The expansion of consciousness is the central aim of psychic development, but through step-by-step training and under the individual's full control. Drugs are a highly dangerous shortcut, giving you the illusion, if you are lucky, of having the levels under your command. If you're unlucky, it may land you in anything from trauma to psychosis. They are not under your command, and neither are the entities which inhabit them, to whose activities you are completely vulnerable in the drug state. You are like an adolescent who plays with a Ouija board for kicks, and like the adolescent, you can frighten yourself silly in the process or suffer actual harm. It is true that in the past, and in some cultures still, shamanistic religions have used drugs for divinatory purposes, but that was by trained priests and priestesses under rigid social and religious sanctions. Such sanctions no longer exist in our culture, nor are they likely ever to be workably reestablished. It is true, too, that serious occultists today have experimented with psychedelic drugs under expert observation and in carefully controlled conditions. Lois Bourne, in Which Amongst Us, recounts such a controlled experiment with mescaline. But quite apart from the fact that such experiments are of necessity illegal, let us be honest, admit that not 1 in 1,000 of the occult enthusiasts who use these drugs does so in such a controlled way. The fact must also be faced that if you use these drugs, you are inevitably supporting the powerful crime networks which supply them. These networks, often with friends in high places, grow rich on the ruining of minds and bodies, including, on an ever larger scale, those of school children. Their activities interlock with every other form of criminal activity, from blackmail to civic corruption, and they are probably the most vicious and antisocial element in the community today. Some of them are actively interested in the occult scene, both as a market and to abuse its power for their own ends. Added to which, by the time their product reaches you, its purity is, to say the least, dubious. Buy drugs and you maintain such people in being. Even if you prepare your own hallucinogens, such as Amanita muscaria. Muscaria? What is that? Amanita muscaria? You are running grave physical and psychological risks, and your psyche is still attempting a dangerous shortcut to give yourself the illusion of control over the levels. Wise witches will leave drugs strictly alone and achieve their expansion of consciousness the hard way, which is both the short and the long run which in both the short and the long run is the only way. Okay. You know, I remember for a long time, long time, I used cannabis for a long time, but I gave it up 3 years ago. You know, I completely quit it just 3 years ago. Well, yeah, it does. It does help it to a point. This chair, it helps to a point. I do have a lumbar cushion that I don't have here at the moment. I don't know if that would make any difference. See, it came with this lumbar cushion, chair did. But I wasn't using it. Maybe I should use it. Ardora, really? Active recovery programs for members? Really? What do you mean they have active recovery programs? Yeah, thank you, Sanguine. It's a gaming chair. It's built for sitting for long hours while gaming. Alicia, I'm not the right person to ask for a dinner suggestion. I just had, before I started the broadcast, I had a couple of corn dogs. I'm not a good suggestion for dinner. So what is this Amanita muscaria? What is that? And cannabis, marijuana, yeah, that's what it is, Sanguine. It's a gaming chair. I know I keep interrupting myself here. You who are watching this after it's been recorded, please forgive my breaking in and interrupting myself constantly. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's better to not use any drugs, like she just said in the book here. It's better off to approach your psyche with a clear mind, you know, and then, you know, work about and get what you need and learn what you need to learn naturally, you know, because the control is an illusion. Any control that you gain while under a drug's influence is an illusion. It's better off that you gain that control realistically, you know. I mean, I'd used marijuana for a long time, for many years, and I did find, in my own opinion, in my own way, I thought that there was a benefit to it. And maybe there was, but as I got older, my chemistry, my brain chemistry started to change, and it was not a benefit to me anymore. It was becoming a hindrance. Ardura, when you said that the covenants of active recovery programs, do you mean that the covenants themselves, the covenant themselves, actually like are a sort of an AA or NA within themselves, within the covenant itself? Is that what you're saying? Very true, Jaded. Just because something is natural, it doesn't make it harmless. And yeah, Sanguine, that's a good point. One of the benefits of marijuana is if you need chemotherapy, it will help with the pain and the sickness that comes with it, and also reduce the anxiety. But you know what, Sanguine? One of the reasons I quit marijuana is because it was making me anxious. I was getting anxiety from using it. But on the other hand, I am taking a medication now that it's a mood stabilizer. So I think that it changed my brain chemistry in a way that there was conflict. That's my only guess, is that it was conflicting. You know, both of the substances were trying to change my brain chemistry at the same time, and it wasn't working very well. It's like trying to push two magnets together. And yeah, that should be allowed. It's a rational, practical application. It should be. But nowadays, I mean, a lot of states now, my state too, are allowing the recreational use of it. And I could probably, if I pushed a little bit, now that we're getting the dispensaries and stuff, I could probably get medical marijuana for my back pain. And I may look into that in time. It still costs like $200 to get the. You need a special card, identification card or something to get it. And it's like $200. Which you get that back. Ironically, you get that back in the product itself. You can get sort of like a credit on your first purchase or something. I don't know, something like that. And this is really not, this is really not helping my back at all. I don't know why. I think this pill is good for people who don't already have back issues. But I have back issues, and this isn't really helping. Comment from the other person several minutes ago. Okay. That's probably going way back. Oh, is that the one? Oh, okay. The one that said that one item which may fall under ethics is that the use of magic creates a situation in which the people who does magic need to remember that nothing is free when you work with spirits and goddesses. I see what you're saying. And ask for it. You need to expect there will be something required of you in return. You must be willing to pay that price. That rule, and that's just an accepted. That's an accepted and established rule. Everybody knows that. Within the world of magic and witchcraft, that's just an accepted thing. Hellbound Heathen. That's the comment you were talking about, right? I'm gonna presume yes. But yeah, it's expected that you might have to, and they'll let you know. And maybe something totally subtle. They may require, you might have to do something. Um, in reality, in this reality here, you might need to put forth some effort to get that what you want, instead of just relying on them granting it to you. Now, on the other hand, I have had so many times where I have needed something. Here's a prime example. I don't remember that this didn't appear that it had any kind of price attached to it, but I needed to finish a computer project, a computer build project, so that I could put it up for sale on the internet. And I needed a few more parts. Maybe it might have cost me another $200 or so, $250 that I needed for the parts. And so I went to the store and I bought a lottery scratch ticket. And on the way home, I talked to the goddess on the way home. And I was, I told her straight up, I just need a little bit more cash so I can buy the other parts that I need to finish this computer project. Lo and behold, I get home, I scratch that ticket, and it was twice the amount that I needed. That ticket was twice the amount of money I really needed to finish my computer project. And that's all it took. I just asked her. I didn't have to do anything big or magical, I just asked her. Does that mean she'll do that every time? No, and I don't expect her to. There are just as many times that we won't need to do anything at all to get something we want. All we have to do is ask for it, and we may get it. On the other hand, but that's in this world, in this magical world, in this world of witchcraft and magic, you begin to know and to realize. It's like an inner knowing. The times that you will need to use a spell, and the times that it's just not required. It depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on what you want to get, really. And I think I'm just getting tired because I'm finding it hard to think. Oh. Well, sanguine, that kind of a headache, that does not sound normal at all. Have you ever been to a doctor to diagnose what's wrong? Summed up, that rule is you give to get. Yeah, you get in what you get out of something what you put in. You put in nothing, you get nothing. Who's this? Somebody says, I've been studying Hermetic magic and have yet to actually talk to a magician. I don't know anything of Hermetics. My video is buffering, jaded for you. Let's see, Kyle is asking, another thing I also wish to know is how does magic help us get closer to the divine? No, magic itself is a gift from the divine. The ability to use magic and weave your energy and the knowledge to weave it is a gift from the divine. You don't use the magic to get to the divine. If you can't find the divine within your own self without using magic, then you don't need to be messing with magic at all. You need to get to know the divine within your own being. I'm going to type that in. Is that a word? H-E... It's not a word recognized by spell correct. Oh, okay. He was trying to find a chat specifically for the subject of Hermeticism. Okay. Right, good point. I can never pronounce your name. Tahirion? Magic and the divine are independent concepts. Neither requires the other. Right. Exactly. But in Wicca, we believe that the knowledge of how to weave your energy into magic to shape your environment, we believe those are gifts from our divine, our deities. We believe that they're gifts, psychic gifts, intuitive gifts. We believe that. Okay, why did Stormy feel the need to post that video link? Chicago teen Kenika Jenkins found dead in freezer, part 1. That's okay, Kyler. We're always learning, every one of us. So it's the concept of duality, or is independent of itself. Yes. Gender, yep. Male and female principles, everything. No, that's the concept of duality, isn't it? No, it's not. I don't know. I'm afraid I'm just getting tired, people. I really hate to do it, but I think I'm going to have to end this. Okay, everyone, I had a really wonderful time here with you tonight, and talked about a lot of good things and stuff, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, I am getting tired, so I'm gonna have to leave you now, and Probably go to bed soon here. But I want to thank you all for coming here tonight, and thank you for having me. And of course, I will be back here again next Tuesday night, and we'll go from there and see what we can talk about. So until then, merry part, and merry we shall meet another day. Blessed be, may the four winds be with you. And also, may the light and the love of the Lady and Lord shine upon your path wherever it takes you. Have a good week too, Marcus Agrippa 1, Sanguine, Atzero, Miss Sugar. Who else here? Jade Sapphire, of course. And Kyler, I know probably doesn't listen, but okay. Stormy and yeah, I think I got everybody. It was good to see you too, Sanguine. Maybe I'll see you next week as well. Thank you, Lady Ordora. You have a good night too. Y'all have a good night now. See you next week.